What's up guys, welcome back, and in this video I'd like to incorporate Vuex into our application. Vuex is Vue's official state management library that ensures all of our application state lives in one central store and can be retrieved and mutated in a predictable fashion. Now, there's a lot of opinions on when to reach for Vuex to manage state or to just stick with props and events like in previous videos. I didn't have any experience with Vuex prior to this, and everything I read online made me think that it was confusing and difficult to use. However, I think the opposite is true, and after using it and learning about it, I think it's actually very easy to use and very intuitive. There's just a few rules you need to follow, which we will go over in this video. So let me show you that diagram. I have a new one here of the current state of our application. So initially we were using props to pass data down from the parent component and events to send events to the parent so we can update the single source of truth, which lives right here. And then in the last video we used an event bus so siblings can communicate with each other, and we also extracted these other components out. So right now, whenever we need to update the single source of truth, there's events emitting from all of these children components up to the parent, and then the parent does the work. So if you go into our code, you'll see all these events that we're listening for, and all of these just update this to-dos, which is our single source of truth. So for Vuex, we introduce this store over here, and this to-dos, the single source of truth, now moves from here to here. So now, whenever we need to get or modify state, we no longer have to emit events here. We just go into the store directly and use it there. Now, to me, that makes a bit more intuitive sense. Instead of just listening for events and then doing something with it, why not just take it from a central store and do it from there? So there's a few rules we need to follow, like I said, and we'll go over that as we're going through the code. Okay, so let's go ahead and install Vuex. So just do npm install Vuex, and I kind of wish I used the new 3.0 version of the Vue CLI because it makes it easier. So I'm kind of regretting that I didn't use that, but it's okay, we can still do it the old way. Okay, let me just run my environment again. Okay, so now we can go into our code and we can make a new file in here. You can put it in here in the root, but I'm going to make a folder called store, and within there I'm going to make a file called store.js. Now the standard name is index.js, but I'm just going to name it store for now. So in here we just have to import Vue from Vue. Let's import Vuex from Vuex. Now let's do vue.use Vuex. And here is where we define the store. So export const store equals new Vuex.store. And this is an object. And this is where we define our state right here. So let's go into our to-do list, which is where our single source of truth was before. And let's take all the data that's global. And there's this to-dos, which is what we're modifying and passing props and events from other components. Let's grab that, paste that in there. And also this filter is global as well, so let's put that in here too. And now we've successfully moved this into here. So now let's start migrating our code over to using Vuex. So let's start with these two in our to-do list. So here in to-do list, everywhere where we're referencing this.todos, let's now reference it from the store. So let's do a replace, and we're going to replace this to-dos with this store. That's how you reach into the store, state.todos. And let's replace all. And let's do the same for the filter, this filter over here. So this filter is this store state filter. Replace all. Okay. And if I did that right, everything should still work in our to-do. And it doesn't. What did I do wrong? Oh yeah, we forgot to import it in our main index file. So let's go into there. So if we go into our main.js file, we have to import the store here and then use it. So import, we're gonna destructure store from that store file we just made. So store/store, and that should be in quotes. And that imports it. And to use it, all we have to do is this. Store. Or if you want to do just ES6 way, you can just do store, and that will automatically do it for you. I like the other way though, just to keep it consistent with everything else here. Okay, now let's see if that works. And here's our app. No more errors, and it still works like it did before. Cool. One quick note I want to make: in the previous videos I have a bug. Let me show you where that bug was. I fixed it already. Check out the commit history, but in our to-do list where we finished the edit, I was passing in the index from our to-do item, and there was a bug where, let me just refresh this. So say we check one. So let's make a mental note of the indexes. Right now this is 0 and this is 1. But if we filter 1, like this is 1, this should always remain 1. But when we filter it, it's now 0. And then when we either checked it, sorry, I should have just checked it. But if we checked it, then that would produce unwanted side effects because the index changed. So the fix for that was just to not use the index, not to pass in the index, but to pass in the ID and then get the index from that ID. So that's the fix. So check out the commit history if you want to see that. Okay, so back to our store. So like I said, everything is in our store now, but there are a few rules that we have to follow. Let's start with getters. So if you look in our to-do list here, we have a bunch of computed properties that we're using, all of these. And these just mainly filter out our to-dos, and we perform some sort of operation on the filtered to-dos. So computed properties now go into the store as getters, and that's how we reference them. So let's grab all of these, and let's go back to our store. Let's make a new section after state called getters. And getters is an object. Let me just move this up. And we can paste in our methods here. Now all getters take in a state as a parameter, so let me just add that. State. state, and this is just getting the state from here. And now instead of doing this, we're just getting it directly from the parameter. So we can just grab all these and then just delete it. And that should be good. Now for these computer properties, if you look at this one, this is just referring to another getter. So for these cases where one computer property is referencing another one, we have to pass it in here. So getters, and then instead of this remaining, we'll call getters remaining. And that should fix that. Now let's save it. And now back to our to-do list. Let's close this. And here, we still need these computer properties, but we can just grab them from the store now. So we can do return this store getters dot remaining, and let's do the same for the rest of them. This one would be any remaining, and we don't need all of these because we're going to be refactoring our code, but we'll leave them for now, and then we'll delete them later. Sorry, to-dos filtered. Delete that, and then this one would be show clear completed button. Cool. And let's double check and see if everything still works. Let's refresh. Okay, looks like everything still works. Hello. Cool. Okay, cool. Okay, now we can start refactoring our components over here, and we can get rid of some of the props and events since everything is in a global store now. We still need some of them, but for most of them we can get rid of. So let's start with this items remaining since it's the easiest one. So if you go to items remaining, actually let's start from here, items remaining. So we don't need this anymore because we can just grab that from the global store inside of here. So we don't need that prop. Delete that, but we do need a computer property with that name, and we can just return the getter in the store. So remaining, return this dot store dot getters dot remaining, and that should work. Let's check that out, see if this still works, and it does. Cool. Okay, now let's work on the to-do item. So let's check out how it looks here. Now, we don't have to do it this way where we pass in the to-do, but I'm going to keep it that way for this to-do item because if we just pass in the to-dos as a whole, that's going to work too, but it's going to change a lot of the logic we have, and I don't want to do that. So here's to-do item, and let's take a look at where this is emitting events. So just search for emit. So before, this was calling this removed to-do from in here, and all this was doing was modifying the array. Where is remove to-do? Sorry, it calls this one remove to-do. So we can actually just do it from within there. Now, just a note, we'll get to this later, but you shouldn't mutate properties in the store directly. It'll still work, but you should use something called mutations, which we'll get to after we finish all of these, after we finish refactoring all these components. So for now, we'll mutate the state directly. So back to, I don't need this anymore. Back to our item. We don't need to call this event anymore because we have access to the global store, and we can just do that. Actually, we need this too. And if you save that, let's see if remove still works. Okay, it does. And we no longer need that event. So we can get rid of that event from here. Where is it? Move to do this. I'll just comment it out for now and I'll clean everything up later. Alright, back to our to-do item. What else are we emitting in here? So this done edit commits a change whenever we double click and edit a to-do item. Okay, so let's take a look at what this finish edit does. Back in here, finished edit. So it's pretty much the same as what remove does. So let's just grab this. We also don't need this anymore. Again, let's comment it out. And I will clean it up later. So instead of emitting it, we can just comment this out. We can do that. And this data is this object over here. Just grab that, paste that in, uncomment, and that should work. Is there anything else we're emitting here? Okay, so same with this one over here. We're just committing a change. So I'm going to grab this, put it in here, and replace this. Now for this pluralize method, we still need to emit this because the title lives on this to-do item and it's not within our global store, so we still need that. So we'll keep that around. And let's see if this works. Let's see if editing still works. Today, and we have an error. Data is not defined. Where is data? Here. This data is this ID. Same with this one. Now, is there any more references to data besides that one? Nope. Okay, let's try it again. So take over world right now. Okay, so that works. Today, that works too. Let's just double check. Actually, yeah, there's a section here for Vuex, but this is not going to work since we're not yet using mutations and we're mutating the store directly. So we can't see in Vue DevTools, but we can see that it works. So let's move on to the next component. Okay, now let's work on this check all component. So let's see how we're calling it in here. So check all. Where is it? Oh, sorry, it's in here. Check all. So we no longer need this prop. Let's remove that. Any remaining. And let's open up the component. We no longer need this. It's actually computed now. Computed. And this is a method now. And this is just going to return the getter. Store getters any remaining. And we have this emitting this check all changed event. So let's see what that did. Check all changed. It just checked this check all to dos. And we don't need this. We finished that in the last run through. So check all to-dos, check all to-dos, and let's just copy this, and you don't need this event anymore, and that should work. Save that, save this, see if this check all still works. Okay, yep, all right, still works, cool. Let's work on this filtered component. So to do filtered, actually, let's see how we're calling it. Okay, there's no props. To do filtered. So we have this filter data property. Let's make that into a computer property like we've been doing, and just grab it from the getters in our store. So filter, return this store state filter, and make sure we have our comma there. And we don't need this filter anymore. And let's update the store state filter. Okay, see if that works. So check one, active, completed, add, that should be an active, cool, put that in there, completed, okay, it still works, cool. And the last component is this clear completed one. So let's go ahead and take a look to do clear completed. Okay, so we no longer need this prop. Show clear completed button. And let's open up that component. Let's make this a computed property. And then that. And let's return this dot store dot getters dot show clear completed button. And let's see what this event did. Clear completed to-dos. Clear completed to-dos. So just call this clear completed. Okay, so I just did this. Let's copy this. Save this. We don't need this anymore. Let's paste that in. Okay, let's see if this is working. So add one, check two of them, clear completed. And it works, cool. And we have some warnings in here. So we have this warning about the filter. Let's take a look. Oh, sorry, typo, computer, computed. There you go, no more warnings. Okay, cool. Okay, so everything works, but like I said, we are mutating the state directly. So we shouldn't do that. That's a bad practice, although things do still work. Let me show you that the Vuex DevTools, which is very handy, but if you mutate the state directly, it's not going to update. So if I add this, you'll see that this to-do arrays doesn't increase because we are mutating the state directly. So for that, anytime we are mutating state, we have to define a mutations property similar to getters. Sorry, let me add this comma. And anytime we update any of this state, it's mostly going to be the to-dos here, but we have to use a mutation and call that instead. So let's start with the to-do list. And let's search for this store state. And let's see where we're modifying the state directly. Let's start with, okay, all of these we can actually delete all this now. Actually, we don't need any of this. We clean that up. And let me just double check that still works. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's search for this. Sorry, here. So here, where we're adding a new to-do and pushing it to the to-dos array, this is where we need to call a mutation. So to call a mutation, you reference the store again, and we reference this commit method. And then as a parameter, it takes the name of the method, which we'll define in a second. Let's name it add to do, and a payload. And in this case, it's just this object right here. And then we no longer need this. Let's actually pass in the editing property as well. We don't need to, but let's just do it for consistency. And now in our store, we can define this mutation here. So we named it add to do. It's going to take in a state, and it's going to take in a to do as a payload, and it's just going to push to that array. So state dot to do's dot push ID title to do dot title completed false and editing false. So yeah, we have to do that. Actually, we don't need this since we're defining that in the store. And let's see if that works. So now we're using a mutation for this case where we're adding, and it works. And now you see that our to-dos array is now reactive, and you can see it being added to in the Vuex DevTools. Cool. Now we have to do that for everywhere we are mutating the state directly. So this store. Okay, so all of this we don't need anymore because we're just doing it from the component itself. Okay, that's fine. We're just getting it from the so okay, so this component is good. And let's just go through the rest of them like we did last time. So let's start with this one. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and we'll move this to the mutations in a sec. But let's just go ahead and call it clear completed, and it doesn't take any parameters. We can take this out, cut it, go to our store. Let's make one called clear completed. And it's going to take in the state, paste that in, and for these two, it can just be state. Okay, save that, see if that still works. Clear completed, that was that last one, so let me just, okay, it doesn't work. Unknown action, clear completed. Oh, sorry, I think sorry. We're going to get the actions in a second. It should be commit for now. Do this, clear completed. Let's check out DevTools, see if this disappears. And it does, cool. All right, what's next? Let's do this to do filtered. Right here, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to commit. We're going to call it update filter. and we're going to pass in the filter. Go to our store. Let's call it update filter. Take in the state and the filter, and we'll paste that in. And we don't need this. Save it. See if that still works. The filter. Okay, it does. Cool. Awesome, awesome. Let's move on to the next one, which is to do check all. Let me commit. Call it check all. And we're going to pass in event.target.checked. And we're going to grab this, go to our store, up here, check all, state, checked, paste that in, and we don't need this. Alright, see if that still works. Check both of them. Okay. Uncheck, check. Okay, looks good. And now for the last one, to do item. So this dot store. Okay, so we're going to call a method called, let's call it delete to do. And we're going to pass in the ID, and we're going to grab this, and then we're going to go to a store. We're going to make one called delete to do, state ID, paste that in, and here we no longer need these. Make sure we have our comma, and let's see if deleting works. Take over world. Actually, we don't need to check it. Okay, deleting still works. Cool. Back to do item. So where else? For editing. So let me just grab this. Paste it in here. We'll call it update to do. And we'll pass in this object over here. Okay, we can grab this. Save, go to our store. Make one called update to do. State to do. Make sure we have our comma. And let's paste that in. And let's get rid of this store. And all the references to this should now be the to-do parameter coming in. Cool. See if that works. Let's update it. And now we can see our Vue dev tools, see if it's working. And you can see it that it does work. It updates today. Cool. You can see it. Update. And what's cool about this is for each mutation, you can actually see a history of all the commits, and you can actually go back and get a history of every state that you've changed. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we have our mutations in place and everything is working nicely. Now let's spend some time and talk about actions. Actions are very similar to mutations, but the main difference is it allows for asynchronous code. So that means any code that takes some time to complete or to resolve, you need to use actions instead of mutations. Most often, this would be an AJAX call of some sort. So back into our code, let's go to our store and let's grab everything in our mutations. You don't have to do it for everything. You just have to do it for where you know you're going to do an AJAX call. We're not going to do AJAX calls in this video, but we'll simulate them with set timeout. So basically anything that's modifying state and you know eventually we're going to put into a database, like for sure we're going to add to do is going to use a database, update to do is going to use a database, delete is going to hit a database, and these other ones sort of just use the filter. They're just local to the app. Actually, no, this one too. So what you can do is just grab all of them and make a new section called actions. And it's an object as well. Paste that in. And instead of state, we're now taking something in called the context. And let's just think of that like the store. Let me just update this. Oh, sorry. That was the wrong one. Here. Context. 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 Okay. And let's clear out what it did before. Just bear with me for a sec. Sorry. And from here, we're just going to call the mutation. So we'll do context.commit, and let's do add to do, and we'll pass in the to do. Same with the other ones. So update to do, and there's no parameter for this one. You can also destructure this if you want. Do something like this, and just grab commit from there, and you no longer need this context. But I'll just leave it like this. And now we have to go through all of our components again and check where we're calling commit. So for example, so we can just do a find and replace store.commit. There's only a few. So let's start with here. And instead of this store commit, we are going to call dispatch instead. So dispatch, 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 and dispatch. Okay, let's save all this. Okay, and see if that still works. Should still work. Okay, adding another check view, clear completed. Okay, clear completed is not working. Commit of undefined. Oh, sorry, I forgot to take this out. Okay, so that worked. Let me just double check. Okay, and yeah, everything's still working. Now let's simulate an AJAX request by doing set timeout. So set timeout, and just do something like this, and we'll do 1 second. And I'm going to do the same for the rest of them. Okay, let's save that. And now there's going to be a delay on all the actions that we perform because we have that set timeout. But we can see that everything still works. But now we're using actions, so we can do asynchronous code if we need to. Now, just a quick note on some file organization or some helpers that can make your code a bit cleaner. One is mapping getters. If you're in your component and you find that you're just repeating this with your getters here in your store over here, so all of these getters over here, then you can use something called map getters, which is just a helper function that uses some ES6 magic and just makes defining everything here easier to do with much fewer lines of code. Now I'm not going to do that here because this is fine and we don't have any components that make too much reference of getters, but just note that that exists, map getters. You can also do that for map actions and map mutations. Another thing you can do is if this store file is getting too large, you can actually split this out into separate files. So for example, this is named store, and we can keep the state in here if you want. And if you want, you can separate this out into its own file, all the getters, separate the mutations out, you can separate the actions out into their own file, just so you have a cleaner file system. And you can also make use of modules, which allow you to have multiple stores. Like for now, we just have one global store, but if you have a store for module A and for module B, you can do that as well. Just take a look at the documentation, which has everything I mentioned. So application structure and modules, and the map getters somewhere down here. There it is. Cool. One quick edit that I found in our mutations when we're doing check all, this should be referencing the parameter coming in. If that works. Cool. We can also clean up our code up a bit. There's a lot of things I just commented out which I should have deleted. Like for example, this still has all of this, which we don't need. And I don't even think we need these anymore. What do I need here? I need to do is filtered. I need any remaining, and that's it. So I need to do is filtered, and I need any remaining. And any remaining, okay, I don't need this anymore because it gets it from the store. I need that, and I need this. But yeah, you can clean this up. As you can see, we significantly reduced the lines of code and we extracted it to a store, which I think is a great way to handle state in your application. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to utilize Vuex into our application to manage all of our state. Again, for this particular app, it's probably overkill, but I hope it's given you an understanding of how to use it when you're building larger applications. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.